Hello, I'm JW. This time I have some item to unbox and have a look at, and hopefully turn on and see if it actually works. And it's in this box here. Now this is an item which came from a seller on eBay, and it's one of these which is obviously a Chinese seller. They claim to have the stock in the UK, and this one listed it up as being in Portsmouth. So let's open the box and see what's inside. So here's the box here. I have opened it just to make sure what was in it is what we actually ordered. And despite the seller claiming to have a warehouse in Portsmouth, the address here, which you might not be able to read, but basically it's from someplace in Bardon, which is in Leicestershire. And for the geographically challenged, Leicestershire is nowhere near Portsmouth. It's hundreds of miles away. So anyway, let's open it up and see what we've got. It's a box with another box inside. So just take this out of here. What we've got here is an SMD Rework Station, or in other words a hot air thing which produces hot air at the end so you can remove and reinstall surface mount devices, or SMD. And it's high quality, of course, so obviously we're assured of that. It says so on the outside, and yet again it says so on the back here. And it's one of these where the manufacturer's name seems to vary considerably depending on where you buy it from. And it's really the actual number which identifies what it actually is. This particular one is an 8508D. And you see there's a whole load of other numbers and things there. And the voltage in this case is undefined. Hopefully it is the 240 volt version, but they don't appear to have chosen any of those. So anyway, let's see what we have. Now, so this came from an eBay seller. This was actually £40, including delivery. So it's certainly at the very cheap and bottom end of the market. So let's see what we have inside here. So here we've got instruction manuals, the anti-static flat IC Rework Station, yes. And the supplier for this is someone called Honor Management Consulting from Hong Kong. Yes, whether that's true or not is anyone's guess. So there's the manual there. It doesn't look too bad actually, at least it's got a reasonable amount of wording in it. So we'll have a look at that a bit later on. And what we've got here then, just a polystyrene lid there. And we'll take all of the stuff out of here. So here's a box. Right, so what we've got in here is some nozzles of various different sizes, so seems fairly helpful. A couple of items in there. A holder, presumably to go on the side of the thing. Just sort of loose flapping about in there. There's the mains cord, so let's see what this is like. Just a bit twisted around, and it doesn't look too bad. At least it's got sleeved pins here, and the earth pin not being sleeved with the fuse in the middle. Uni-rise, apparently, allegedly ASTA approved, but whether that's true or not is anyone's guess. Just the plastic cover part there. One thing I should say about this here, and this actually is already doing it there, is that what this white here is the polystyrene from the packaging, as it's sort of there, and then this top piece which is, say, expanded polystyrene. If you leave PVC cables in contact with this, it pulls the plasticizer out of the PVC, and then you get this reaction going on here, and eventually it will cause the cables to be brittle and damaged. So they could have put a plastic bag over that, as in the style of the thing itself. Now what have we got here then? Okay, well that's the heating part obviously, and the nozzles fit over the end there. And we've also got another one of these, one of those, so we seem to have two of those now. And then obviously the unit itself. And what's left in here is just hopefully just the polystyrene packaging, yeah. Now the unit itself is in a plastic bag, so this will be removing that. And it appears it's been threaded over the outlet tube there, so let's just tear that bag in half. Right, that's got rid of all of that. So the mains lead then is permanently attached through the cord whip there, got a fuse on the back, and this does say voltage 220-240, and it's a WEP 8508D, so at least it matches with what was in the box. Now I'll just check this mains lead has not been totally wrecked by it being in contact with the polystyrene. There's a few little marks along it, so again that's not too bad. Of course it's only been in there for a relatively short time. You can see there the same problem occurring. It's say the polystyrene and the PVC plasticizer do tend to react together, so it would have been better if they'd put a polythene bag over the mains lead. So anyhow, that doesn't look too bad. Got a carrying handle on the top, and the front of this thing, WP Rework Station 8508D, power switch, and then the two rotary controls there for the air and the heater, and the switch there for auto and manual. Hose coming out the front there, and that's permanently attached to the gun here, just with the heating part inside, so there'll presumably be the air and the wires inside there. Now this piece here presumably will fit onto the side there. We've got the two screws, so that will just fit on as a holder. Nozzles here, just have a look at those. So we get 4 nozzles ranging from massive to what might be deemed a more usable size. Bearing in mind that most surface mount components are very small, so having a gigantic sort of 1/2 inch or whatever nozzle doesn't seem all that useful. And again, those will just go over the end, got little clamps there for the screws. Now 2 of these have the screw bits in them, and these 2 do not, but we do get 2 of those separately here, so all the bits are in there. It's just a bit odd that these 2 don't have them pre-installed, but anyway, they're all in there. And then of course this will just fit over the end there, tighten up to also have the appropriate sized nozzle. Now I seem to have 2 of these things, so it's a handle and a single screw, and then a sort of spring wiry type arrangement, and this one appears to be exactly the same, so not too sure why we have 2 of them, but nevertheless that's what we have. And we also have this, which is a screw with some red paint on it. Not entirely clear where that's come from. Oh, well there it is, it's come out the bottom here, so that will clearly require some attention before we actually turn the thing on. Before use, please pay attention. Please release the bottom red marked screws before you use the machine. Well, that's nice. And it seems one of them has already released itself, so there we go. Now let's just have a look at the instructions here. It doesn't look too bad actually. I'm not quite sure what this flat part means, but presumably flat integrated circuit, as in surface mount. And so that's been stuck on as a label there. It's in English, so there's no other languages inside. And so it doesn't actually look too bad. It's got all the say warnings on that page there. Yeah, it's actually reasonably well done there. I mean, it's certainly not perfect English, but it's far better than plenty of these things which you've probably seen both on this channel and others. And there's the specifications there. So yeah, 220 volts or 110. We've got the 220 according to the label. Temperature range 100 to 450 Celsius. And it claims temperature stability within 1 degree. That seems, well, optimistic at best. And I say all the rest there fairly straightforward. And this is the one with the actual airflow part is in the main casing. So this end is simply just the heater, and then the actual air pump is in the base unit. You can get these with the basically it's just a fan in here, which of course are a different option there. And yeah, it does look reasonably fine. So that shows how to replace the heating element. and a selection of parts you can probably buy as a separate thing, and then some kind of warranty thing in the back which is not filled in the slightest, so whatever. Now this is on the first page, and it says here, before shipment, please be sure fix the screw at the bottom of the machine, and before using, please remove the screw at the bottom of the machine, otherwise it will cause serious problems. So it's really going to have a lock for the air pump. It says in 5x20 white, although the ones we have got red paint on them, but anyway, those are presumably supposed to be removed. So let's have a look at that. So here's the bottom, and got the label on saying you should remove the screws first. Here's one of them which has already been removed of its own accord, so obviously that was in there with this sort of red painty stuff to lock it in position. So let's remove that screw, and then we shall see what goes on after that. So okay, well again they're both the same, so it's just a question of presumably securing the air pump inside, no doubt on these 4 rubber things there, so it doesn't have to get damaged. Presumably tear the rubber mounting whilst in transit. So there they are. Obviously not ideal that one has already come out in shipping. Nevertheless, that's how it is. What can you do? Now we're going to open this in a moment, but before we do that I just want to check if the air continuity is actually there, as clearly this is a metal cased appliance. And obviously we do want continuity between the metal casing and obviously the pin in the plug. So what we'll do is just attach onto one of these side bits here, obviously go through into the casing. Okay, yeah, that is showing us continuity there, so that's less than 0.1 ohms, so that's fine. So you can't actually see the machine in the shot there, but it's the same one on the shelf that has been used in many other videos. So, okay, that seems reasonable. Now, we're actually going to open this, but I have actually bought the thing to use, so we're not going to be totally destroying it. So this thing presumably just fits on the side here, across those 2 screws, although the manual doesn't actually mention that you should fit that, but it's fairly obvious that it would go there. And there are holes on this side as well, presumably so you can put the thing over on the other side if you wanted to, but anyway, it doesn't particularly matter. So just like got the screws on the side here, and yeah, 4 on the other side, so let's undo those. Now, although the continuity showed as correct there, which is obviously what you would expect, I'm actually going to open this just to see how it's connected internally, because for all we know it could be a thin little wisp of wire or some kind of just tacked on with solder or something, which obviously, although would show continuity, is the sort of thing that could fail at some later point. And I also want to see how well the thing is implemented internally anyhow. This may of course be useful in the future if it needs to be repaired, because then you've got a record of actually what it's supposed to look like, because if you switch it on and something burns away and a component blows up, it's going to be quite difficult to identify that after the event, whereas if you've got a video or picture of what it looked like before, then of course you can see what the offending component was. So this lid presumably will lift off of here. Yep, so nothing on the lid, just the actual handle there, and it's got that red gunge on. Well, there's a bit there, and there's a little tiny fleck on that one for the top carrying handle. And while we're there, there's just a warning label there, basically about the high temperatures, and also not to put your fingers on it and whatever else it's going on there. Oh, and also transportation, please put in the red screw. So. And take them off before you've started, so that's fine. Right, so it has some sort of auto cooling down thing, so you don't have the gun sort of just sitting there burning hot with no air going through it. So here we are inside then, let's have a closer look at that. So mains lead coming in here. This is obviously the air pump here with the hose going out to the front, and a little transformer down there in the bottom. And then of course all the rest is on this front panel circuit board, so that's your main switch. This will be the control board for the little display on the front, and also contains the two adjustment knobs there on the front there, and switch here on the side just separately mounted in like that. Now this mains cord doesn't feel too bad. Let's just see if we can get the size from this. It's got dozens of markings on, 300 volts, 3 by 0.75, and it's yeah, just repeated further along, but anyway, it's got all the things on there which you would expect to see. That of course isn't a guarantee, and the plug itself, again, fairly reasonable looking. It's got the pins there, non-sleeved earth, sleeved line and neutral, and we do have a fuse inside, so just take out the fuse and see what that is. So let's have a go with that fuse there, let's see what we've got. Well, it says BS1362, so let's just see what sort of rating it is. Okay, well, 5 amp fuse, it says Asia fuse on it. It's got the ASTA mark and the others as well, BS1362 and SS167 as well. So again, it looks to be about the right sort of size, and 5 amps would be appropriate for this device. So again, that's a reasonably promising start. Now here's the mains lead coming in, and it is clamped in this fixture here. It's got that red gunge over it to presumably secure it in position. So the line brown coming up goes to the fuse holder here. We put a bit of heat shrink on it, and then of course the outgoing side here is on the red. That comes back down, and blue and green and yellow just come straight out of the flex and come over to here. Now this is where the earth is implemented here, so that goes straight down to a screw fitting in the bottom there, and again they've put heat shrink over the wires there, so again that's not too bad. So that's just going through with a screw on the back. And you've got the wires continuing through to the front here, so basically it's now going to be the red. And the neutral is actually joined here, just a bit of heat shrink over that, so it's basically red and black internally, with red being for the line, blue obviously changed to black for the neutral, and the green and yellow earth again comes through to the front panel. And the wires I've got a few ties there to hold them in position, so that seems reasonable enough. Now the earth wire here, the green and yellow, actually comes through to the front piece here, so that does at least support the fact that this is connected to mains earth there. And the other wires again just go straight over here to the power switch, obviously on the board here. So this is where the mains comes in onto the board, and it's these press-on connectors here. And again, they have put the red adhesive material there to at least hold those in position, and they are the locking variety with the tab just to pull down and release. So again, that seems decent and reasonable enough, and they're all fully pressed in. This is the actual main switch here, and again you've got the sleeving over the back of the terminals, and they've actually put a bit of hot glue there to secure it in. It's got the sort of spring tabs and also the ubiquitous hot glue to fix that in position, and the rest of it looks okay. We've got a presumably a transistor or something on that little tiny heatsink there. Let's hope that doesn't get too hot, or it's going to be melting the wires next to it. And another connector down in the bottom there, again the same style, and they've put a blob with that red stuff on it to fix it in position. So here's a view of the rest of the board there. So it's just two chips there, both which are in a socket, and then that's a smaller 8-pin device over there. And again the wires here, that just goes over to that switch there on the front panel. Again, that seems to be glued in position. It does have a nut and washer on the front panel, but again they've put a bit of glue on the back as well to hold it in. That's the front panel display with the LED 7 segment things, just mount on the board, and they've presumably just glued in that plastic bezel is just glued into the metal front panel. So yeah, it doesn't look too bad, it's reasonably tidily constructed, and quite a lot of the board screws don't appear to be present here, which is rather surprising. There's the pillars there for them, and then the holes in the board, but the holes in the board, see, they don't actually line up with the screw threaded part, so they've obviously misaligned that. And then there's 2 others at the bottom there, again, which don't appear to have screws in either. So then the question is what actually holds it in, and I believe it must just be the knobs on the front of the casing that's holding it, because there doesn't appear to be any screws holding the board in at all, which yes, somewhat unusual. So even though the pillars are there, it's not actually screwed in. So oh well, not the end of the world. It's not going to fall out obviously with that in position. So yeah, it seems that the only things holding it in are the 2 switches on the front. So this is actually the back of one of them here, there's tabs, and then there's the other one just down in there. So apparently they made some hash up with the alignment of this, so it's not quite aligned here with the threaded posts. So that's not wonderful, but again, this is a very cheap low-end device. So anyhow, that doesn't look too bad. Seems to have all the relevant parts are present. And so the air pump here, not really going to be much to see on that. It's just simply a separate unit. It is mounted on the rubber compliant mountings. That's what those screws are for, just basically to hold it in position. Have a cable tie securing the chamber on the side there. But yeah, other than that, it seems to be reasonably well installed. One interesting thing here on the back panel, we've got an extra hole there, which doesn't have in it whatever it should have in. It's got the label stuck over the outside, so presumably there was possibly another switch on the back for the mains power, not implemented in this particular model. And the transformer there, as you see, it's just a 12 volts, so basically 220 in and 12 volts out on the blue. So mains in here, 12 volts out on the blue, obviously to power the electronics. And there's a view of the 2 chips on there, the LM358 there, and obviously the main microcontroller there, which is in a socket on the side there. Other than the rest of the components, it's all fairly just passive there, just a few resistors, capacitors and things. That little transistor there bent over at a weird angle. Obviously a relay over here in the blue there. That's pretty much it. And on the front panel, which we're not going to take out because I did actually want to use this, we've got the couple of LEDs down in there, the 7-segment display, of course, capacitor sort of tacked on the back there, and obviously the 2 control knobs which are further down at the bottom, and then the switch on the front here. So it's just a separate item with the wires coming off of the back. Now just check for continuity to the actual end of the heating part there. So get the meter there, and we should have continuity from this to the frame of the device. So yep, we do. Yeah, press hard enough to get down to 2 ohms or something. Yep, and we've got continuity there, and of course we should also have the same to the earth pin of the plug as well, which we do. It's one of these awful plated ones which never make a wonderful contact with the light pressure. Yep, that's fine. And we can see the screws of the device are all connected through to mains earth as well. Certainly the switch there, and on the front, and the handle as well. So that seemed all right. Now I'll put the handle on the side here, that's where the screws just happen to be, so of course that will just fit in there, and of course you could take that off and put it on the other side as well if you wanted to, so it doesn't suppose it's going to make a huge difference. So this hose is the air supply, and it's also got the wires inside for the heating element part as well. And the auto manual thing should be the case that in auto it turns off the heater when it's in the holder, and then obviously heater is on when it's removed from there, and presumably manual means the heater is on all the time. Right, so we go for the automatic mode there, and we'll turn the knobs to the minimum setting, I think, and see if it actually turns on. Okay, well it's at 100 and the 3 lines, so presumably that's the air temperature. And what we'll do is turn up the air, I think, to the full. Oh right, if we turn the heating knob, it does actually set the various temperatures on the display, so 100 being the lowest. And obviously we can go up to 450, I think it was, yeah, in the instructions. So burning things to a cinder, and of course not even melting the solder at all. So certainly a fairly wide range there. And of course this will be the air speed on that, so that's reasonable. And then in theory, when you lift it off of the thing, it should switch on. Well, it certainly does that. And yeah, hot air is coming out of it. Yeah, it's certainly warmed up there. I've got the lights here, this one on all the time, and then the flickery one for the heater, which presumably is the heater switching on and off. So it said it had that PID control rather than just banging it on and off at random rate. We can obviously turn down the airflow somewhat, which reduces the amount of noise considerably. So these are not going to be a quiet thing, as it's basically an oscillating diaphragm pump, so some noise is inevitable. But yeah, hot air is coming out, and if we turn it up, say, to 200, yeah, there's certainly a lot more heat coming out of that. Let's go up to the 450. Yeah, that's certainly hot enough there, and I'm presuming this is the actual temperature it's displaying, so obviously you turn the knob and it will display the temperature you're setting, and then obviously after a while it will then show the actual temperature there, obviously ramping down. I'm presuming when the light comes on it means it's reached the temperature you wanted. Yeah, there's a reasonable airflow. I can feel the airflow way over the side there, so I mean we're what, 2 feet away from it, and you can feel the airflow there, so that's on full. Obviously normally you would have it considerably lower than that, otherwise you're going to literally blow the components away from the board. Yeah, that's how it is. So as you turn it, it's the temperature you're wanting, and then after a couple of seconds there, it then goes to the actual temperature of the end, which obviously in this case is dropping away as we've set it to 100. If we turn up the air, it should drop away a lot more quickly. Yeah, there's certainly plenty of airflow on that. I can feel it nearly 2 feet away from the end of the nozzle, and that's without any actual nozzle on. It's just the bare open end of the device there. And then if you place it in the holder, in theory it should go into standby, which seems that it has done. Yep, there we go. It takes a moment or two. I think that's part of the anti-overheating thing that it had, so take it out again. Yep, there it goes. So place it in the holder. Yep, when it goes off, it's obviously a temperature related thing. In the manual, yeah, it just basically runs continuously, and obviously regardless of whether it's in the holder or not. Yes. Okay, well that seems reasonable enough, and I think we'll just turn that off there. Now just get some idea of how accurate the temperature is on this. So we've got a thermocouple just up here in front of the nozzle. Temperature on the meter here, so sort of 23 or so at the moment. And so we'll turn on and see how well this corresponds with that. Now bearing in mind this is not going to be super accurate because this is only a fairly cheap thermocouple meter, and obviously we don't know how accurate this on the front is either. So let's see what we get. So we'll put it to the manual. So obviously we'll get it to turn on without the whole thing being moved. Turn up the airflow to a modest sort of level. Now set at 100, which is its basic sort of default setting, and currently showing about 124, 125 there, so that seems a bit on the high side. Let's turn up the air a bit more, see if that makes any kind of a difference. Incidentally, I found if you actually press on the top of this, It reduces the noise quite a lot. I think it's the metal case here just vibrating against the other part, because it's only got screws on the side, so of course the top is not all that well fixed. So it seems to be about sort of 25 or 30 above what it claims. So let's turn up to another temperature. So let's go for 250 on the display there. So 249 there, and the temperature is still increasing. Obviously it will take a while to reach the desired temperature, and so we're about sort of 249, so that seems reasonably accurate at that kind of temperature level. So now we're just slightly overshooting there, but it's sort of 255. So again, let's go up to a higher temperature. Let's go up to the maximum that it claims, which is 450 on this one. Okay, we're up to 400, it's still increasing there, so obviously it does take a while to get to wherever it is, so although the display does actually indicate it is at 450 already. Okay, so it's sort of stuck about the sort of 440 range, so it's again not too far off, though it does seem to be actually getting up to the 449 now. Again, if we turn up the airflow, let's see if that makes any kind of significant difference. It certainly shouldn't do. So again, we're about the 455 or so, so it may have gone past a little bit, but generally speaking though, it seems reasonably within. Let's turn down the airflow quite a bit and see what happens there. So again, we're about sort of 440 there, so I mean obviously it's not going to be within sort of 1 as it claimed in the manual, but it's not too far off now. Let's just try going down again to say a lower temperature, so let's say 200 for example. Now this obviously may take a while because it's got to obviously cool down from the high temperature, so if we turn up the airflow that should expedite the process. Okay, so that's quite a lot over that time, so it's still around the 260 mark, even though it's saying 200 on the display. So, although I say it is still dropping down, but so bearing in mind this is actually supposed to show the actual temperature rather than the and just the setting when you alter the knob here. So if we go up again, say to 300. Or near enough, and again it does seem to also increase on the display there, so it seems to be more accurate when you're going up to the temperature rather than coming down to a lower temperature, because again there we're on sort of just 301 on the actual unit, and we've got 319 here on the other display. So again it's slightly out, but again it's not massively to cause any major problem. And the main thing is that the temperature actually coming out is reasonably stable, because obviously what you don't want is it sort of going all over the place and many tens of degrees up and down around its set temperature. So yeah, about 320 as compared to 300 or so. And the auto thing there, as you see, the temperature will basically reduce down with the thing still running, to obviously cool it down before it actually switches off. That avoids leaving the heater or the gun part sort of at high temperature with no air going through. and then so it's switched off there and it gets basically down to its minimum 100. And you see now the air's off, the temperature obviously is falling away rapidly there, so there's obviously no airflow, and all we're getting there is just the residual heat off of the metal nozzle. So that's the 8508D hot air station, and seems okay for the price. I mean, you're not going to be expecting sort of pace quality and such a thing, because obviously a pace machine will be like £1,000, but for 40 quid, I mean, that seems entirely purposeful. And so you've got the air coming out of the base unit on this one. You can get some which are slightly cheaper, but they basically have the actual fan in the handle with the heater, but obviously that makes the handle quite a bit bigger, although this is not exactly as small as it is. So yeah, seems reasonably well made, and certainly for £40, not a great deal to complain about there. And say this particular one is marked WEP as the alleged manufacturer, but in reality it's just a brand name. I think that's just stuck on a whole load of generic products. And I've seen these with a white front panel and various other manufacturers' names on, but probably all going to be the same inside. So that's a quick look at that. So we're not going to take it apart anymore, because basically we've seen what there is to see, and the point of buying it was to actually use it, not to take it apart and destroy it. So until next time, thanks for watching.